COVID, Adidas, and Michael Jordan all played a role in Nike missing out on Anthony Edwards. This video will discuss each reason in depth and explain why Ant-Man should consider leaving Adidas for Nike or Jordan brand. Although the Minnesota Timberwolves didn't win the 2024 NBA championship, Edwards led them to their best postseason run in decades, and many believe that he has what it takes to be the future of the NBA. At 23 years old, Ant-Man is the youngest player on the 2024 USA basketball squad and is quickly becoming the face of the team. No current NBA player inspires more Michael Jordan comparisons than Edwards, with Kevin Garnett recently saying Ant's like a young 84 Jordan. KG is referring to MJ's rookie year in the league, which marked the beginning of Jordan's partnership with Nike. Thanks to MJ, Nike has dominated the basketball sneaker market for 40 years. From Jordan to Kobe to LeBron, the best NBA players usually sign with a swoosh. So, how did Nike miss out on Anthony Edwards? Adidas. Lessons learned from past mistakes. In 2020, Edwards signed a shoe endorsement deal with Adidas after he played just 2 games in his rookie season. In 2024, Ant signed a multi-year extension with the company, worth around $50 million. The three stripes moved fast to land Edwards. That's probably because the company has lost multiple superstars to Nike in the past, and they didn't want to see it happen again. It all started with Michael Jordan back in 1984. Nike wasn't Mike's first or second choice. He wanted to sign with Adidas or Converse. Adidas refused to give him a signature sneaker, and Converse was loaded with talent, including Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Dr. J, and Bernard King, so they told MJ that they couldn't envision him being put before them. Jordan's agent at the time set up a meeting with Nike, and when they landed, Mike initially refused to get off the plane. Nike was an upstart company at the time, so MJ wasn't interested. His mom convinced him to meet with the brand, and after their pitch, Jordan's dad advised him to accept the offer because they promised Mike a signature shoe. Even after receiving an offer from Nike, Jordan gave the three stripes one last chance, letting them know about the swoosh's offer and telling them that if they come anywhere close, he would sign with them. Adidas decided not to match the offer, so MJ agreed to sign with Nike. And just like that, Nike Air Jordan was born. The deal changed the sneaker game forever. Michael put Nike on his back, and they've dominated the industry ever since. He signed the contract in 1984, and Nike expected to make $3 million by year 4. But Jordan's first-year shoe sales totaled $126 million, a figure more than 40 times the company's estimate. You would think the three stripes would have learned from that lesson, but a few decades later, Adidas had an opportunity to sign LeBron James, but they made him a lowball offer, and James ended up signing with Nike. Bron wore Adidas in several high school games, including a very special pair that were a gift from Kobe. James met Bryant for the first time in 2002 at the NBA All-Star Game, and Bryant gave him a pair of Kobe 2s in the USA colorway, honoring the victims of 9/11. They were too small for James, with Bryant wearing a 14 and Bron as a size 15. But a few days after that, James wore them during a high school game in which his St. Vincent St. Mary's team played against Oak Hill Academy, led by Carmelo Anthony. The game was televised live on ESPN. The future was looking bright for Adidas with Bron wearing the three stripes in his biggest game of all time, but they dropped the ball when it was time to make James an offer. Sonny Vaccaro, a former sports marketing executive who was working with Adidas at the time, explains that the company had a chance to sign LeBron with a 10-year, $100 million contract. Adidas could have afforded it too. The company still had Kobe Bryant and Tracy McGrady selling shoes for it. But the three stripes lowered its offer to $70 million at the last minute, allowing Nike to swoop in with a $90 million deal to land the future superstar. After missing out on Jordan and LeBron, Adidas wasn't making the same mistake with Anthony Edwards. With Nike not in the position to sign athletes due to COVID, Adidas landed the Timberwolves guard after he played just 2 games of his rookie season. COVID. If the COVID pandemic didn't happen, Nike would have most likely signed Anthony Edwards. On March 11, 2020, the NBA announced that it was suspending the pro basketball season indefinitely after Utah Jazz center Rudy Gobert tested positive for coronavirus. A day later, the NCAA announced that the 2020 basketball tournaments were canceled because of the evolving COVID-19 public health threat. In an Anscape article, Nick DePaula explains that the NBA draft was pushed back 5 months due to the pandemic, and the delay put a spotlight on an unprecedented marketplace for traditional sneaker endorsement deals. When Puma signed LaMelo Ball to a long-term sneaker deal before the draft in October, he was the only rookie in the 2020 draft class to land a sneaker contract. The rest of the draft class began the NBA season without deals. It was an unthinkable scenario in the NBA. A year prior, R.J. Hampton, the 24th pick in the 2019 draft, signed a multi-million-dollar 5-year deal with Li Ning based on his raw talent, even before playing in Australia's National Basketball League. Before the pandemic, most NBA rookies landed a sneaker deal during the week of the draft, after several weeks of ongoing negotiations. That wasn't the case in 2020. Anthony Edwards was the number 1 pick and started his rookie season without a footwear endorsement deal. He played in Adidas Hardens and Nike Kobe's during the preseason, but after his first 2 regular season games, Adidas made him an offer he couldn't refuse. The pandemic led to the closure of retail stores for several brands, including Nike, causing a financial strain that led to frozen sports marketing budgets. Rick Bucher reported on his podcast that around 150 players had a paid Nike shoe deal on some level before COVID. Of that group, nearly 70 expired and weren't renewed. When COVID hit, Nike had just spent around $1 billion to expand its Oregon headquarters. The company announced intentions to expand its campus in April of 2013. The king of the athletic apparel and footwear industry was enjoying a prolonged boom at the time. Annual sales exploded from $19 billion in 2010 to $34.3 billion in 2017. Nike's headcount took a corresponding trajectory, more than doubling from 34,400 to 74,400. At some point, it became clear to Nike management that its initial expansion plan was insufficient. So, it upsized its upsizing. The new plan called for adding 6 buildings and 1.7 million square feet and approximately 4,000 parking spaces. Nike's headquarters expansion was one of the largest construction projects in state history. It took 6 years to plan, design, and build the 4 new structures on site. 2 of them are enormous. The centerpiece of the expansion, a 10-story, 1 million square foot office building named for tennis superstar Serena Williams, and a 450,000 square foot merchandising center. The Serena Williams building is equivalent in size to 3 Portland City blocks, or 140 full-size tennis courts. The building includes 200,000 square feet of lab space for designers to test new ideas and presentations. If the swoosh would have signed Edwards, those designers would most likely be working on the Nike Air, AE2s, following Ant's performance in the 2024 NBA playoffs. The buildings have sat mostly empty since their completion date due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Like most companies, Nike sent its workers home and tried to adjust to a virtual workplace during the spring of 2020 when the virus first hit Oregon. When it was time to sign Edwards, Nike was distracted by the COVID pandemic, which came right after they spent billions to expand their campus. The swoosh is the official sponsor of the NBA, so after the NBA and other sports leagues suspended play, Nike's stock plunged. The last thing on the company's mind was signing prospects. Ant's Georgia Bulldogs didn't qualify for the NCAA tournament, which was ultimately canceled due to the pandemic. Although he was the number 1 player in the nation, he didn't get the exposure he would have, minus COVID. The decline of the basketball shoe. The financial impact of COVID only added to the downward trend that the hoop sneaker market has faced in the last decade. Each of the last 5 years, basketball footwear sales have been dwindling, as the buying public has opted instead to purchase more lifestyle and retro sneakers. Basketball sneakers are losing to Dunks and Air Force Ones, and they're no match for Crocs. I'm sure Nike would love to have as many high flyers on their roster as possible. But the NBA signature sneaker isn't the hot commodity it used to be. Nike could be patiently waiting for the next J Balvin, Drake, or Kendrick. The money they would have spent on Edwards might be better spent on a deal with an entertainer to hopefully enjoy the same success, as the company had with Kanye, Travis Scott, and Virgil. The swoosh and 3 stripes have both dropped some dope collabs with luxury brands in the last few years, with the Dior Jordan ones, Louis Vuitton Air Force Ones, and Gucci Adidas Gazelles. With hooping sneakers not selling like they did in the past, it's great to see companies being forced to be more creative instead of just dropping retros. Having a star like LeBron James' name on a performance shoe doesn't guarantee it will sell, which has forced brands to pivot. The slumping sales numbers indicate consumers no longer want big and bulky basketball shoes. They want versatile shoes they can wear for any occasion. Another reason for the sales slump is that big, bulky shoes don't look good with the current fashion trend, tighter pants. Nick DiPaolo believes Nike became a victim of its own success with its most popular models. After the 2008 Beijing Olympics, Nike had the Kobe 4, LeBron 7, and KD 4, and those models had a lot of great themes, great colorways, great storytelling, and really took off as those guys were accomplishing a lot on the court. That was the post-Jordan resurgence for Nike basketball. Since then, Nike got very aggressive and elevated the prices for all of those lines and started to price some people out. Endorsement deals with top NBA players are still crucial for footwear companies looking to reach new customers, but shifts in consumer taste indicate that they might not have the revenue-driving impact they once had. While the basketball shoe industry as a whole isn't what it once was, Jordan Brand remains the strongest performer of Nike's divisions with a 6% sales gain to reach $7 billion in revenue for fiscal year 2024, proving that when you have the right player and release the right shoes, you'll most likely be able to reach revenue goals. NBA signature sneakers, Nike's greatest hits. Let's take a quick look at how dominant Nike has been when it comes to signature sneakers for NBA athletes. This will give you an idea of how innovative a Nike-designed Anthony Edwards signature sneaker could be. It's only right to start with MJ, whose best sneaker of all time were the Concords. The Jordan 11s re-release every year around the holidays, and are still as popular as they were when they dropped for the first time on May 7, 1995. Nike's success with Mike led to endorsement deals with numerous other NBA stars. Penny Hardaway's signature line is the closest to Jordan's in terms of popularity, with his blue foamposites being his most iconic pair. Charles Barkley's CB94s were his hottest release, and for Scottie Pippen, it was the more up-tempo 96s. Scottie's teammate, Dennis Rodman's dopest pair were the Air Shake and Destruct. Tim Duncan had some solid releases, including the Foamposite Max. Vince Carter was wearing his Shox BB4 in the 2020 Olympics when he jumped over a 7'2" center. Kevin Garnett's signature line included some classics, with the most popular being the Air Garnett 3. During his days with the Washington Bullets, Chris Webber rocked the Air Max CW, which were renamed the Air Max Sensations after him, and the company parted ways. About a decade later, his teammate Jason Williams wore the Hyperflights. Only a brand like Nike can pull off purple patent leather. Other 90s NBA stars with unforgettable kicks include Tim Hardaway's Air Bacons, Jason Kidd's Zoom Flight 95s, and Gary Payton's Zoom Flight gloves. The late Kobe Bryant has a strong signature line that remains popular to this day. His best release was the Kobe 4, Carpe Diem. In 2023, Kevin Durant became the third player to sign a lifetime deal with Nike, joining LeBron James and Michael Jordan. Durant's slickest sneaker of all time are the KD4s in the Nerf colorway, while LeBron's are the South Beach 8s. Kyrie Irving's signature sneakers sold very well before him and the brand ended their relationship in 2022. The Kyrie ones were his sweetest designed kicks. In 2019, Ja Morant signed a 5-year deal with the company, and on Christmas Day of 2022, he announced his Nike Ja 1 signature shoe. Paul George and Giannis have also released some fairly popular signature kicks. Long story short, the swoosh has released some of the greatest NBA signature sneakers of all time, and they have dominated the game for half a century. Nike's NBA roster is full of unique personalities. You've got charismatic, confident players like Kevin Garnett and Charles Barkley. Then you've got determined, hard workers, obsessed with winning like Jordan, Kobe, and LeBron. Anthony Edwards has an opportunity to be the best of both worlds. He's charismatic and confident, with a high level of talent, which will most likely lead to multiple championships. And signing with Nike would be equivalent to the swoosh landing Shaq, Allen Iverson, or Magic Johnson in their primes. Charisma plus talent equals greatness. With a Deion Sanders swag and talent that sets him apart, like Tiger Woods, Ant-Man was destined to be on Nike. Competition between sneaker companies is great for the industry, and it wouldn't be fair for Nike to get all the NBA superstars by default. But the swoosh is one of the most effective companies in the world when it comes to marketing superstars. Nike's basketball marketing. MJ's most unforgettable commercials featured Spike Lee, also known as Mars Blackman, and in 2009 they gave us the hilarious LeBron and Kobe puppets. And who can forget Bryant jumping over a car in his hyperdunks? From Charles Barkley's I Am Not a Role Model campaign to Lil Penny and the Fun Police. The freestyle commercials were amazing. They featured street ballers and NBA players dribbling to a beat. Jason Williams, Vince Carter, and Lamar Odom made appearances. Anthony Edwards and Adidas have released entertaining commercials where Ant makes it clear that he wants all the smoke. In his Pick a Shoe commercial, we see the Timberwolves star comparing his kicks with those of other NBA players. He picks up a pair of Ja Morant sneakers and tosses them aside before doing the same with a pair of Luka's and LeBron's. At the end, he picks his AE ones out and lets the world know that they have no competition when it comes to NBA signature sneakers. In another Adidas commercial, we see Ant responding to receipts or past criticisms on social media of him and his play. Rapper Cameron was one of the critics Ant responds to along with Carmelo Anthony. While Adidas is marketing Edwards in a way that allows him to be himself and show his personality, Nike would have focused on his talent and love for the game. Nike players often appear in commercials together, so Ant could have teamed up with Wemby, Ja, or even LeBron for some marketing campaigns. The swoosh wouldn't have Ant beefing with other brands. Instead, he'd be focused on building his own Jordan brand. With all the comparisons to MJ, we have to consider if Ant should actually take his talent to Jordan brand, a subsidiary of Nike. Another reason the swoosh missed out on Edwards is because a year before his draft, Jordan Brand was spending hundreds of millions on contracts to refresh its roster. In 2019, Jason Tatum joined Team Jordan, and his championship with the Boston Celtics has elevated him as the brand's best or second best player. The Celtics beat the Dallas Mavericks, led by Luka Doncic, who also signed with Jordan in 2019. In 2024, Luka was an MVP finalist. Zion Williamson signed with the company around the same time for an unprecedented $75 million for 5 years, rounding out a roster of incredible new talent united to represent Jordan Brand for the next generation. To date, Zion's contract is the second biggest rookie sneaker deal, trailing only LeBron James. Luka's initial deal with Jordan was also worth $75 million, and in 2023. He extended his partnership through 2029. The company needed a revamp, with players like Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook aging and Carmelo Anthony retiring. Despite having a substantial amount of talent, Ant could join Jordan Brand and arguably be the best player on the roster. He would definitely be the most marketable, with all the videos on social media showing Edwards make moves that look exactly like those that MJ made throughout the 80s and 90s. While the commercials would have been epic, Ant would have sold himself short if he signed with Jordan because he is talented enough to have his own Nike signature line, like Kobe, LeBron, and KD. So, although Jordan Brand also missed out on Edwards, that may have been a blessing in disguise. Speaking of missing out, Allen Iverson recently revealed that after going first in the 1996 draft, he took pitch meetings from all the major sneaker companies. One of those meetings was with Nike and included the presentation of a signature sneaker with Jordan Brand. They showed him a prototype of a Bubba Chuck basketball shoe, but Iverson ultimately decided to sign with Reebok. If he would have signed with Jordan, he may have built a closer relationship with MJ and would have definitely benefited from his guidance. The same could be true for Edwards, who could refine his skills by working out with Mike and listening to his advice. The future. In July of 2024, Edwards signed an extension with Adidas, but that doesn't mean the swoosh can't convince him to leave the three stripes in the future. Kobe signed with Adidas in 1996, but after the Kobe 2s came out in 2000, they bombed in sales, and Bryant wanted out of his contract. He reportedly paid $8 million himself to get out of his Adidas deal after the summer of 2002. Images of Ant's second shoes have leaked online, and they're definitely not as bad as the Kobe 2s, but most sneakerheads would agree Nike has the experience, talent, and creativity to make magic with players like Ant, and would be able to design a better signature sneaker for the Timberwolves star. Imagine Edwards in the concept sneakers that were designed for Wemby, or a signature shoe with an oversized logo that extends onto the sole, like we've seen on the Giannis Freak 5s and the LeBron 22s. Adidas might be desperate enough to overpay him in the future if Nike tries to convince him to leave the three stripes. In 2015, Adidas gave James Harden $200 million for 13 years to pry him away from Nike. The company had to make the move. In the first 6 months of 2015, Adidas had 4% of the US athletic footwear market, while Nike and Jordan Brand had 58%. Harden isn't the only player that switched from the swoosh to the three stripes. Jeremy Lin, Goran Dragic, and Tim Duncan are some other players who made the move, so needless to say, it's fair game and just business. The companies will continue to try to steal players from each other, and there's always a number that a player won't be able to refuse. Nike needs to listen to its own advice. When you find something that works, you just keep doing it. MJ's skill set and approach to the game led to a lifetime contract with Nike. The swoosh saw similarities between Mike and Kobe, so when Bryant left the three stripes, Nike signed him to a $40 million contract. This was a month after signing LeBron to a 7-year, $90 million deal. Nike isn't cheap. When the company is interested in an athlete, they don't mind making record-breaking offers. Hopefully, they'll take the same approach with Ant-Man. Do you think Anthony Edwards will eventually end up with Nike or Jordan Brand? Or do you think he should stay with Adidas? Share your thoughts in the comments.